Hey everyone, I'm Sarah. This is going to be our relaxing restorative yin yoga sequence, and Kamikaze will be here to help us out along with Professor Mad-Eye Moonshine. We are going to be starting off in a standing position today. So just start by coming into our mountain pose. Feet grounding in, tailbone is drawing down towards the ground, letting yourself become centered and present in this moment. Shoulders are relaxed. And just take a few breaths here to check in with yourself. Maybe noticing any tension that may have built up throughout the day, or if this is your first workout for the morning, any tension that you woke up with. Just take a moment to acknowledge that. And start by relaxing your palate, letting your tongue drop away from the roof of your mouth. And noticing how that simple act can release tension in our neck and shoulders. Go ahead and inhale the arms up, clasp your hands together at the top, and just take a nice side stretch to the right or left, whichever way you feel like going. Inhale through the center, exhale to the opposite side. And just tick-tock back and forth. Really nice and slow. Maybe add in a little back bend. And bring your hands back to your side. So I have my mat laying long ways to this way, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one foot at the top part of my mat and one foot behind, and imagining your feet are like they're on ski tracks, so the outer edge of your feet are parallel with the outer edges of this mat. So that's going to mean that this back foot, you're going to have to pick up your heel and twist it, so it's going to feel a little wonky, a little unstable. And if you start to feel like you're losing your balance, take a wider step. So when your feet are parallel to each other, placing your hands on your hip, lift your back heel up and bend into that left front foot. Go ahead, straighten your leg, bending again. For me, I'm actually going to take a bigger step back. And what this does is it sort of tugs on the psoas muscle in our hip flexors. So for a lot of us, we have tight psoas muscles and tight hip flexors. And this just starts to work into those deep fascial layers. And it also helps as we get older to work on our balance. Since our bodies aren't normally used to moving in this pattern, so this just helps to reestablish balance in our body. Go ahead, step that back foot up. Take a moment to notice what you feel in your body, and step the left foot back. Again, side edges of your feet are parallel to your mat, so you're going to pigeon toe that left foot in a little bit. Placing your hands on your hips, making sure our hips are level. Lift that heel, back heel up, and bend into your right front knee. Straighten your knee, pressing the mat away. Bending into that right front knee, keeping the hips level, making sure we're not arching as we bend forward. Just nice, slow, steady. Keeping that heel lifted the entire time. Like I said, if you're feeling a little uneasy here, unsteady, you can always take a wider stance. Step that left foot back up, ground back down, shake it out. Then we're going to shift the weight to the left side of our body, take our right foot. We're going to bend down a little bit, extend the right foot forward, rotate it out to the right side, then back behind us, and come up straight. Bending down, drawing that circle with our right foot, and straightening again. Bending our knees, drawing a circle out, and straightening. You just want to start to introduce movement into our hip joints. And if it's beginning of the morning or maybe the end of the day, there may be some snap, crackles, and pops. It's totally okay. Then with the other side, coming into a mini squat position, drawing the left toe forward and drawing a circle to the left. Squatting down, circle to the left, and back up. Down to the left, and back up. This also helps to build balance. So the more we can challenge our balance, the better at it we'll be. Common injury as people get older is injuries from falls. So the more micro movements we can do now, and the more functional training we can do now, will help prevent those types of injuries as we get older. Okay, when you've done about 10 to 12 of those, go ahead, shake it out, come back into your mountain pose, take a deep breath. I'm going to step this way for you guys. And just take that right foot, step about 2 or 3 feet back. Heel is going to be pointed slightly in, toes are going to be slightly out. Having both legs straight, start to hinge forward at your hips and bend down. This would be a nice place if you have blocks too, to have prop up your hands, or you can use your fingertips. And just relax over that left front foot, making sure we're not locking our knee, especially if you have hypermobile joints, but there's a tiny little micro bend. As our left hip draws back, right hip is pulling forward. Feel a little bit more in our hamstrings there. And then just let your head hang down. And if this is a little too much for you, you can always bring your feet closer together. Remembering to breathe in this posture. And some of these postures we'll be holding for a few minutes at a time. You can certainly hold them longer if you'd like. It's part of the challenge of yoga is finding stillness, finding quiet in the postures. Go ahead, bend your left front knee, bring your right knee up, or right foot up to meet the left. Switch sides. So left heel is going to be slightly in, left toes pointing slightly out. Make sure the left hip is pulling forward, right hip is pulling back. Micro bend in that front knee, and then just drop in over that right thigh. Really let your head hang down. Again, if you need a block, no problem with that. If you're feeling a little tight in your shoulders, you can also grasp your hands behind you or use a strap or a towel. And just let your collarbones be wide as you interlace your hands behind you. Anytime our head is below our hips, it gives us a chance to strengthen our diaphragm. Because our organs will start to fall on top of our diaphragm. So when we're breathing in and out, our diaphragm has to work a little bit harder to bring in fresh air to our lungs. Go ahead and step your feet together. Ground down through your feet. Rise up slowly. Bring your hands overhead. Take a nice inhale. Exhale, come back to our mountain pose. Ground down with your left foot. Step your right foot about 3 feet back. And really come down low into a crescent lunge. Right heel is nice and tall. You're pressing back like you're pressing it through the wall behind you. And this left shin is pressing forward. If this is too much for you, you can always drop to your knee. That's always an option. Maybe you start to add in a little bit of a back bend, but I would caution if it's late in the day to avoid back bends because they can be a little bit energizing and it might keep you up at night. So back bends, if it's the beginning of the morning, it might be beneficial for you. Go ahead and drop your knee if you haven't already done so. Take your hands, press them into that thigh, and just press your shin forward while pulling your hips back. And go ahead and place your hands on the inside of your left foot. Walk your left foot out just a couple inches. And then maybe rotate your foot so that you're putting a little bit of pressure on the side of your left foot, opening up that hip a little bit more. If you ever feel any pain, pinching, or numbness, definitely back off. And then bringing your knee back towards center a little bit more, coming back up, placing your hands on your left thigh. If you want, you can go ahead and reach back for your right foot. If not, you can always use a strap to wrap it around your foot and pull it closer to you. Or you can go up to a wall and place your right foot on the wall behind you. Again, working into that hip flexor with this quad stretch. Go ahead, release your right ankle, and then slide your hips back over your right shin and right calf, and just work on a little bit of a half split with that left foot. And this is also a nice place to have blocks too. You can play with pointing or flexing your toe. Making sure your knee stays pointed straight up towards the ceiling at all times, so we're not rolling it in or rolling it out. And then maybe you can play with the full splits this way. And if you're a runner, you're probably cursing at me right now. So I'm gonna grab my blocks and just kind of settle in back into this half split a little bit. And you can always take one of these blocks and place it underneath your sitting bones too. Go ahead and kind of gently bring that left foot back into our low lunge position. Curl the right toe under, bring it up to meet your left foot, and then step your left foot back. So heel is lifted, right shin is pressing forward, your left hip is pulling forward, and your right hip is pulling back to keep your hips forward facing. Again, maybe you add in a little back bend here. Maybe you drop your knee down. That's what I'm going to do right now, and then just press my hips into my front shin. And if you want, you can go ahead and grab your left ankle or left foot with your left hand. Work a little bit more into those quads and hip flexors. This is one of the only toys that this cat will play with. As you can see, he kind of needs the exercise. And go ahead and release that left foot. Start to inch your right foot out. Maybe work into that little half splits or full splits if it's in your practice. I like to either point or flex my foot. You go ahead and inch your right foot back between your fingertips or your blocks. Step your left foot up. Ground down with both feet. And come into mountain pose. Go ahead and step wide along your mat. Heels are going to be pointed slightly out. Toes are going to be pointed slightly in, bending at your hip. Hinging at your hip rather. Coming into a wide leg forward fold. For me, I like to come in with a flat back first, extending the crown of my head forward while I'm engaging my quads and hamstrings. So I'm imagining these muscles kind of rotating out back behind me. And then go ahead and relax all the way down. You can hang on to your block if you like. And let your head relax here. We'll be here for about 5 to 10 more breaths. Go ahead and press yourself back up. And then with your right knee bent, I just kind of move my right leg forward a little bit more underneath me, bending into my right leg. And straight, keeping the left leg straight, toes up, and knee is pointing up. Just kind of working more into your inner thighs. Again, a nice place to have a block here too. Or a stack of books, or a step stool. You don't need a fancy yoga block. And again, my cats also like to use these as toys. There's a bunch of claw and bite marks on them. And go ahead and start to walk over to the opposite side. Bending your left knee, bringing your right toe and knee pointing up. And then coming back through center, go ahead and drop to your knees, crossing your ankles, coming into a seated position, bringing the soles of your feet out in front of you, touching. So you can be way out here, or you can have your heels closer to your pelvis if you want. It all depends really on the shape of your femur and pelvis and your entire bone structure in this area. So what I like to do is I kind of cup my hands around the top edge of my feet, sit nice and tall through my sitting bones, hinge forward at my hips, and then I just kind of use my elbows, nest them in between my legs. And hopefully the cats are adding a little bit more of an entertainment value to this video. Go ahead and release that. I'm just going to adjust this camera really quick because I'm going to be more on the ground next. Coming back to seated. We're going to ground down through our sitting bones, and then we're going to take our right leg out to the side, our left knee, we're gonna bend that in towards us. And then just start to reach for your right leg or your right shin, wherever you want, or you can take your left arm, reach it over, grab onto your right foot, take your right arm and thread it through this hole. And if you're just like, oh my God, I can't even reach my legs or ankles right now, how do you expect me to do that? Just do what you can, do where your body is at right now. As long as you're getting a nice stretch in your side body, that's the object of this pose. And we'll be here for about 5 to 10 breaths. Okay, from here, go ahead and release your right side. Again, sit nice and tall through those sitting bones, and then just hinge forward at your hips just a little bit so you're sort of doing a little forward fold over this bent left leg. Working a little bit of a different angle of our inner thighs. It's also a nice posture to have your block, and maybe rest your forearms on it, or you can stack them up and rest your head on it. You're not going to be in this pose for long, so go ahead and release that side. Bring your right leg in, so bending your right leg like our sitting tree pose. Go ahead and start to reach for this left foot. Maybe you only reach for your shin and ankle. That's totally fine, whatever gives you that stretch in the side body. For me, I like to reach with my right arm and grasp onto the left foot. Take my left hand and thread it through this hole that we just created. We'll be here for about 5 to 10 breaths. Go ahead and release that left foot. Come back to sit nice and tall through those sitting bones and hinge forward at your hips just a little. Me, I'm just going to open up my leg a little bit more. And go ahead, release that. I'm going to bend both our legs, so we're going to come back into this little butterfly pose. And this time I'm going to take my hands, place them underneath my ankles, and grasp my feet that way. And then hinge forward a little bit at my hips and round out my upper back. This is also a nice posture where you can take the block, place it up tall, and actually place it on your foot and rest your head on the block like that. For me, I'm just going to set that aside and just let my head hang as it would. Go ahead and release that. Keeping your right foot bent, pulling it in closer to you. And having your toes pointing straight up towards the ceiling and your knee pointing straight up. Ground down through those sitting bones. Hinge forward at your hips when you can't hinge any further. Rounding out your back to grab whatever you can. Maybe it's just your shin, ankle. Maybe one day, someday, you can place a block in front of your foot and reach for that. And then just let your head drop here to wherever it falls. We'll be here for another 5 to 10 breaths. So just let yourself melt into the moment. Releasing what doesn't serve you in this pose. Go ahead and release that side. Outstretch your right foot, bend your left knee. Again, grounding down through those sitting bones to create that natural lift in our spine. Start to hinge forward over that right foot. And when you can't hinge any farther, then you can round out your spine. Again, keeping our toes pointed up towards the ceiling and our knee pointed up towards the ceiling. Go ahead and release that side. And from here, just gonna come in, outstretch both of my legs, fix my shirt, ground down with my heels, so it kind of activates the major muscles in our legs, and then hinge forward at the hips, grasping onto whatever I can down here, and then rounding out my spine, letting my head relax fully in between my arms. And we'll be here for about 5 to 10 breaths. You can always bend your knees in a little bit and then just wrap your arms around each other and let your head hang down too, like this. And just inviting space to our low back in these postures. Maybe hopefully relieving some tension that may have built up in the low back. Especially the neck and shoulders too, by just letting our head hang down like this. Go ahead and release that. I'm gonna move my cat. And go ahead and lay back onto your mat. Bring both knees into your chest and drop your knees to the left side. Hugging your knees into your chest and then opening your chest open to the right and maybe looking at your right arm. And just relaxing in this twist. Yeah. Maybe letting your eyes close. And not really worrying about if your shoulder touches the ground or not. Go ahead, bring your knees through center. Give yourself a nice little hug here too. Then drop your knees to the right, bringing your knees as close to your chest as possible, and then opening up your arms to the left. Opening up your left arm to the left side. Go ahead, bring your knees back up through center. Give yourself a nice hug, curling yourself into a tight little ball, and then releasing for our final resting pose, our Shavasana. And if you're still feeling a little bit of tension in your low back, you can place a bolster underneath your knees. And if it's end of the night for you, you can certainly go practice this in your bed. Or if it's the beginning of the day, just let yourself melt into the mat for a few moments. Just practice being still, practice letting your body integrate the movements that we just did. Allowing yourself to find stillness among the distractions. Maybe you bring your awareness back to your breath and start to focus on those exhales again. drawing them out or following them until they become a pause at the bottom of our stomach. Allowing our bodies to take in the right amount of air when we allow ourselves to press the bad air, the old air out of our lungs. Feel free to take this Shavasana as long as you need it. When you're ready, you can bring in micro movements to your wrists and your ankles, bending your knees in, rolling to one side or another, just pausing for a moment, pressing yourself up to seated. So I find that Shavasana can be a difficult pose to practice, but it allows us to quiet and steady our mind as the body relaxes. As we let our body melt into the floor, we can start to bring awareness to maybe tension that built up in our jaw as we practice. Letting that tongue relax away from the roof of our mouth. Just letting the stress melt away, letting the tension ease away as we think of the roof of our mouth as having a dome-like quality. Thank you guys for letting me lead you in this restorative, relaxing yoga sequence. I hope your 180 journey continues to go well. If you have any questions for me, feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram or leave comments in the YouTube. Other than that, the love enlighten me sees and honors the love enlighten you. Namaste.